Brilliant. Okay, well, just a quick recap. As a church, we are spending this year thinking about our values, what makes us as Holy Trinity. So forgive me if you are a guest or a visitor. I'm just going to catch us up on what we've been doing. So we've been looking at about prayer and about the Bible for our first few months of the year. And now, as we come into Easter, we're thinking about Spirit-led worship. And it's worth thinking, what do we mean by that? So hopefully there's another slide. This is where we've been going. So we're on the Spirit-led in worship, and we're thinking about God being worthy. We spent 5 weeks looking at prayer, and I hope that was an encouragement and a blessing. And we're thinking about what does it mean to be Spirit-led. Now, this probably makes most of us think, when it comes to worship, there's something about singing. But what if it's more than that? What if we take Mary's example, and what if there's a devotion that we can't measure? What if there's something it demands of us that's all of us? It's hard to measure because we're all in. Now, the Bible tells the story of a really, really generous God. A generous God that made everything because of his grace and his love. The fact that we're here this morning with air in our lungs is testimony to the generosity of a good God. He gave us everything. He created a good world. He journeyed with his people, which we see all the way through the Old Testament. And then we see the generosity ultimately shown in Jesus, the perfect Son of God, who was given to us, who poured out his life on a cross. God gave us everything in Jesus. So this morning, what I really want us to think about is how do we respond with our generosity to a generous God who has given us everything in Jesus? How do we respond? And Mary gives us this example. Now, before you run off to Tesco and buy a load of perfume, I'm not suggesting we have to literally apply this as we've read it, but there's some things in here I hope that we can take away with this morning. This is Spirit-led worship, devotion without counting the cost. And why does Mary respond so extravagantly to Jesus? And there's 4 images we're going to look at, which are going to help us. And they almost all begin with R. We'll come to them as we go along. These are going to help us think about our devotion to Jesus. The first one is race. We'll see that at the bottom there. There's a race. Anyone been in a race? Anyone been to sports day? Anyone done the egg and spoon or the sack race? Oh, they take you back, don't they? Our first reading that Max brilliantly read for us is this reading in Philippians where Paul is in prison and he's writing to the church about what it means to keep going for Jesus. And the passage he talks about, we can almost think about as a race. How do we navigate life with God and with Jesus? What does that actually look like? Now, when it comes to a race, if you are anything like me and you were fast as a child, don't let this current exterior fool you. If you were fast as a child, the sprint was quite easy because you literally, for a short distance, just go as fast as you can. It's quite easy to stay focused and keep going. The difficulty is the longer the race. The longer the race, the more the distractions, the more the other things come on, the more we get tired, the more we might want to stop. And the more that fills me with dread today doing something like that. But if we think about life as a race, it can very easily be something that we get distracted in. We thought we were going in this direction, but we've been taken off to the side. We thought we had our eyes fixed on where we were going, but something's come in and it's derailed us. It can be hard to stay focused. If you're young here and you can interpret that phrase however you like to, how many times a day does your phone ping when you're in the middle of something and you pick it up and the thing you were thinking of doing is now interrupted, distracted by a new direction the phone has taken us in? How many things are on your to-do list? How many things are in your mind that you think, I've got to do that, and then I'm doing that, and then I'm doing that? The school run, the meetings, the shopping, the swimming lessons. The challenge for us as we run the race of life is how do we focus on Jesus despite all of the things demanding our attention and our devotion? How do we do these things? You see, Mary was focused on Jesus and her love for him. And for her, nothing was going to get in the way. She wanted to pour everything out that she had because it showed her love for Jesus. He was worth it. So there is something about the race, but there's something about the rubbish bin, top right. That reading from Paul gives a list of all the things he thinks are rubbish compared with knowing Jesus. And this was a man that could have boasted in who he was. If we think today about who the celebrities are that have achieved lots of things or are famous or that we respect, effectively, in one sense, this was Paul in his day. Of the Jewish leaders of the day, he was the Pharisee of Pharisees. He was educated. He was from the right tribe, the right background. He spoke the right languages. He knew the scriptures inside out. He could have boasted in so many things. And he says all of this stuff is rubbish compared with knowing Jesus. That's the contrast he's telling us. And we might insert our own things there. I wonder what it is for us, our past, that we might boast in. Maybe it's the school we went to, the degree we got, the house we live in, the money we have, the friends we know, the phone we have, the clothes we wear. You might add in your own example. With all of those things, Paul is saying, it's not that they're not important, but compared to Jesus, they're just rubbish. They're passing away. They don't have value. Nothing compares with him. It's like pouring perfume. When Mary sits at Jesus' feet and pours perfume, it's her way of saying, compared to Jesus, this expensive year's wages perfume is rubbish compared to the joy of knowing him and worshiping him. It's a real challenge. The third one that begins with R is wristwatch. What? I told you mostly they began with the same letter. Rolex. Oh, my word. I missed that, didn't I? Rolex, I know. Wristwatch or Rolex, depending where you live. How long do you think it took Mary to pour the perfume out on Jesus?
Not long, a bit.
Not long. Sometimes the most generous things we do don't take that much time, but they will have a lasting impact. This happened roughly a week before Jesus was crucified. And if all that perfume was poured out on his feet, he will have gone through the last week of his life smelling of this perfume. I wonder if you've paused to think about that as he is beaten, as he is nailed to a cross where the end of the story, or we think the end of the story is, he will have smelled of this perfume that he's been anointed of. Jesus has been anointed in this really, I suppose, in a time sense, quick fashion. But some generosity actually does demand from us. It demands time from us. And often anything worthwhile does. If you ever flick through Instagram Reels and you see those people who have played an instrument better than anything you've ever seen before, and they work out a famous tune and they do it in an instrument in an exciting way, and you go, wow, that is what a talent that must be. It is a talent, but behind it is literally thousands of hours of time given to get there. All of us in life have the same amount of time. We all have the same hours in the day. We all have the same days in the week. It's what do we do with our time that matters. And again, it's back to our focus. A great measure of generosity with God is how much time do we give him? It's just a challenge for each of us. How much time do we give him? So we've got the race, the rubbish bin, the Rolex, and the final one is the riches. What's beautiful about Mary here is, can you imagine owning something that was worth a year's wages and just lavishing Jesus with it? And there's a real challenge, isn't there, to what we have. What do we do with what we have for Jesus? Because the temptation in life for all of us is to count the cost of our generosity. I'll be generous up to a point, or I'll give up to a point, or I'll share something up to a point. But what if it was so outrageous, because Jesus is worth it, that we didn't count the cost? And we said to ourselves and our time and our riches and everything at our disposal, Lord, it's yours. It's yours. You didn't withhold anything from me. I'm not going to withhold anything from you. Final image I just want to show you is this next one. And this is the image of God's generosity for us. And it's a very memorable Bible verse. We've used it this week in Schools Week. And I know we have many guests here. You may not have heard this Bible verse before. But it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life." This is God's generosity to us that invites us to respond. Sending his only Son, taking our sin and our mistakes and our brokenness and our failure and dying to new life. He offers this new start to all of us if we just come to him. This is God's generosity to us. One thing we did with our school this week, which I'm going to do this morning if that's okay, is we broke that verse down. Because it can be very difficult to imagine God's love for us individually. We hear a verse like that and we go, yeah, he loves the world. He might love that person over there, that person who's got life together, that person who's kind. But what about me? So one thing that we did for each of the schools is we brought it closer to home. So what have we said this morning? For God so loved all of the people that were sitting inside the building in the centre of Staley Bridge. All of us. What if God so loved all of us? What if he loved our friends? What if he loved our family? What if he loved the people that we see each day? What if he loved us that much that he sent his only son? That whoever would believe in him will not perish but have eternal life. What if that's God's generosity to us? And we can respond with generosity to him. So friends, just as I've finished, this is maybe something that we can think about this morning. Just on that next slide, please, John. When it comes to the race, what distractions might we need to remove to focus on Jesus? Maybe for some of us, it is something as practical as less phone, more Jesus. Sounds like a t-shirt slogan, that actually, doesn't it? Less phone, more Jesus. You're welcome. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, you're welcome to that idea. Maybe it comes to the rubbish stuff and going through what we have and saying, compared to Jesus, none of this has worth. He is so far out above and ahead. Nothing is as important as him. Maybe it is reordering the time and saying, what do I give to the Lord? And do I give my best to the Lord? If I'm best in the morning, why don't I give that to Jesus and see what he might do with that? Maybe it's how we use our resources, how we give, how we share, and turning that into worship. As we look at spirit-led worship, see how it's so much more than singing. It demands everything of us, and it's beyond something that we can measure. So the challenge is to be more like Mary. But actually, the deeper challenge is to be more like Jesus, who gave everything without counting the cost, who was nailed to the cross for each of us. I'm going to just invite us to be still as we respond to that word. We're going to say a prayer together in a moment. But just for a couple of minutes, why don't we just be still and allow God just to speak to us, maybe through one of those readings, maybe through something that we've heard, as we think about his generosity to us and how we might respond to him. So let's just be still for a sec.